What's up, guys? It's Whack. I welcome you to my season 5 of Cult of Larry Draft League um, draft recap, I guess. Um, I decided to actually record videos for this because of the team I drafted itself. Um, this team has like a lot of, I guess you could say, personality. And I kind of want to document myself actually using this team and how I feel when I'm like actually using it. And I'm sure you'll understand when I get to my first pick, and I believe my fourth or fifth pick as well, and like maybe some low tier. Um, you'll understand. So I guess just getting into it, you'll see those purple squares there. Those are just for my Terra captains, so when I get to them, they're Terra. Terra Blast is allowed, which is nice. And yeah, let's just get into it. Yeah, our first pick is Kiram. Um, this is a mon that I've been kind of crapping on for like 3 years. Not because it's bad. It was pretty bad when I used it last, which was in like PBA. Like, God, it was almost 3 years ago. It might have actually been 3 years ago, or like really close, because I think it was like end of spring 2021 when I played there, and I don't even think PBA is a thing anymore. Um, But yeah, I used Kirim on a team there, and it kind of just came in and died. I believe I missed Draco like twice, and overall, that team was not very good, and I did not really win much with it. But it wasn't really Kirim's fault. It was more my fault for the terrible drafting that I had. I think my team was just too fat, and I dropped Pokemon that were just fine. Like I think I had like a Glow King on that team and I just dropped it for no reason. For like Toxapex and Breloom. Like that was stupid. Um and that was even but that was before G King was considered like 16 points. I think it was like 13 or 12 at the time. Um but there's no G King on this team. There is a Meowscarada though. And Meowscarada is nice. Originally I was gonna get Gren, but I kind of saw Gren as just a worse Meowscarada, and as much as I wanted to give Greninja another chance at like redeeming itself, I just didn't see the point. Especially if Gren's more expensive, while Meowscarada's faster and has more tools. At least in my opinion, because Meow has I'm gonna move for a second. Um, the way I was sitting was weird. Meow has Flower Trick, which is nice for critting things that are trying to boost their defense. It also has knockoff, and Gren doesn't. But other than that, it gets spikes and T spikes. It gets a lot of good coverage. Although I will say, I think Meowscarada doesn't get like strong coverage. I would say like its best moves are well, before the DLC it was like Play Rough, but other than that it got like Thunder Punch and Low Kick, which is kind of like not the most reliable thing. Even its base moves aren't like that strong. Like Flower Trick is only base 70, which compared to like Wicked Blow and Surging Strikes is a lot weaker than those. And Knockoff is also not the strongest move, especially if it's not boosted. Because Megas are allowed. Um, and to be honest, like Meow might have to knock off twice to kill something, so it might miss out on those. It might miss out on some power, but like it is still a really strong Pokemon, really strong with all its tools. It gained triple axle as well. I've been kind of told it's like a better Weavile in a way. I'm not sure like why it's like offensively better than Weavile, but I mean it has more tools plus U-turns, so I'll take it. Um, Next up, we got Treads, which I believe in one of my last drafts, I also used Meow and Treads on the same team. They just work pretty well together. and it covers a lot more of the roles that I need filled, which would include like rapid spin, more pivoting, stealth rock. It also gets knockoff in case Meow, like for some reason, doesn't want to run it. Um, I don't know. I mean, they can both run it for all I care. Treads is just one of the more reliable Gen 9 mons I think I've used. This is, I think, the fourth time I've used it, which the first time was like a few weeks into the Gen 9 meta, and I was like, I kind of want to try like some Paradox mons, or like I want to draft two Paradox mons so people will actually have to think about Electric Terrain and Sun versus me. Um, and I think I got Slitherwing for the other one, which, I mean, in theory, those two work pretty well together. I didn't really like Slitherwing that much, but Treads was nice. Treads actually did a lot more than I expected it to, which is why I've been coming back to it over and over. It has like base 112 attack, which is not like the strongest thing, but it gets really strong moves. It gets Earthquake, Heavy Slam. Heavy Slam, it's base 120 on a lot of mons, especially the mons that it matters for. Like all the fairies are pretty light. Pretty sure it's like 100 or 120 base power on like a Namorous Therian, which is like one of the bigger fairies I think I can think of. So it's pretty strong in that aspect. I'm excited to use Treads again. Super reliable mon, super underrated in its offensive role because I feel like a lot of people just run it as like a lead booster energy mon. They'll get up rocks and then just like smash buttons until it dies. But for me, Treads is like an offensive like cleaner in a way. Even without like boost energy, you can just run like Choice Scarf and like pivot around, or you could like Life Orb with Rapid Spin. Not that spinning with Life Orb is like the best idea, but getting the +1 speed is, you get the point. And yeah, our next pick is going to be removing Treads apparently, is Moltres. And yeah, Moltres is our Terra captain. I think it was like 15 points for Terra, which is kind of expensive, but it was also like 12 points overall, which I also kind of thought was a little steep for it. But I kind of picked it up like later in the draft as someone told me. Um, well, I guess I'll say their name. Anna Bunny told me about like Terrifier burn up with like choice specs and choice scarf. Like this mon Terrifier burn up is like low key like fire Dracovish in terms of power. Like this thing Okos a lot of shit. I'm pretty sure it two shot like rock type Carbink. Um and Diancie, like this thing's strong. And I'm like, very excited to use it. I'm not sure if I'll be running like Terrifier burn up a lot, but like you could do Terra Fairy. It's a good defensive mon. I think Terra with Flame Body is like pretty underrated, and you can kind of abuse it in some ways. Um, so I'm excited to see like what Moltres will do. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't lock itself into one role, which is what myself as a player needs to kind of work on with using mons that have multiple purposes for said multiple purposes, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, this mon did pretty good offensively this week, um, and then I will never run it like defensively. I'll never run like a defensive mon offensively, stuff like that. So I need to work on that and also stop going backwards. Our next pick is Rotom Wash, which is alongside Kyurem, another Pokemon I needed to give another chance. Um, I kind of decided to give it a chance because it's. I kind of think Rotom Wash is like overrated. I kind of see it like Lantern with Levitate, and it's not even like bulky or strong. And it's like either too slow for things or too fast for things. But I do see why people still like it, and I have seen Rotom Wash do work still. It's still a pivot with Volt Switch. It still has defog without flying type. It's still an electric type with levitate, which will never be bad. Levitate will never be a bad ability for like anything even. Um yeah, and I guess it's kind of a I think the thing I hate about it is that it's supposed to be a bulky water, but it doesn't get scald. It only gets hydro pump, which kind of misses. Um and if it wants to burn things, it has to rely on Will-O-Wisp, which also misses a lot. And I'm not like the biggest fan of that kind of stuff, but we're giving it a chance. It works pretty well with a lot of the other mons on my team. Although I'm kind of seeing that all of my ice resisting types are paired with typings that don't resist ice. Um, and then I have a water type, so freeze dry is just gonna kind of wreck. But I don't know. I have Kyurem, so I'm not too worried about freeze dry or ice types in general. Our next mon is Terapagos. I kind of saw Terapagos as just it's kind of there. Um, I've seen people run it with like agility and calm mind, and it can definitely do that, especially with its Terra Shell ability, which is like basically just better multi-scale. It still has like base stat total of 600. Um, it's pretty fat. It doesn't have a single bad stat. Like its worst stat is speed. And it gets physical coverage if you want to use like its 95 attack, which isn't too far from its 105 special attack. But I mean, you're probably gonna be running it special anyways because of Calm Mind and Terra Starstorm, which is like a mini boom burst for it in a way. I think it actually is like stronger than Swellow Boom Burst because it has better special attack compared to the lower base attack of Terra Starstorm. I don't know. I could be wrong though. Um, but I don't know. It also gets Stealth Rock and Rapid Spin. I have pretty good removal up to this point, and I don't know. Having a good bulky normal's fine, especially when my Dark type is Meow. And that's like the main reason I picked up Terapagos. Otherwise, it would have been like Snorlax or the Dunsparce. And I'm using the Dunsparce in SDS currently. I don't really think it's the best thing ever. But I find Terapagos to be pretty cool. I kind of want to try like rest talk sets with it too. Because I think it can put in work in that way. And then our next pick is Pheasantipity. Originally, Pheasantipity was going to be one of my Terra captains. Unfortunately, it just seemed to be too expensive to pair with one of the other Terra captains I originally had planned. Although I did have a plan at some point that involved all three Pheasantipity, Okidogi, and Monkey Dory. They're both, not both, all three of them were placed at 10 points, which I think is like pretty good for like Okidogi. I don't really like Monkey Dory personally. I know it's strong, but I don't like having to rely on Focus Blast to hit steals. But I saw Pheasantipity. I also kind of figured, because I think I actually drafted Pheasantipity before Moltres and Trapagos. I think it was Treads, Rotom, Fez, and then Moltres and Trapagos. I'm just putting them in like point order because I'm stupid and weird. But I saw Fez as like a good special defensive wall. A good fairy typing. I also really wanted to try Fez because I was not able to in WPF duo, whatever the fuck it was called with the two people. It has a good typing. Poison Fairy is nice. I think Poison's a really underrated typing. Fairy obviously like pretty good. Together, I'm not so sure. Like it is weak to ground. It's not Glare and Wheezing. It also doesn't get defog like Glare and Wheezing does. But I kind of saw like my last few picks as good enough for removal. But yeah, especially defensive with Roost. Has a lot of setup opportunities with Calm Mind or Swords Dance or Plot. doesn't have the strongest offensive stats, but it has strong enough defenses to, I guess, kind of take on the role of like a bulky setup sweeper. Um, in terms of bulk, I would say it's like very comparable to Glow King. I think it might be a little bit bulkier than Glow King because of the higher special defense compared to like a little bit lower HP, but it also has like a little bit more defense. So yeah, I would say it's pretty comparable. It's also not weak to Shadow Ball and Knockoff, which Glow King is. So I kind of see it as a win there. Our next mon is Mesprit, and at the time, I think I picked up Mesprit because people were telling me about how weak my team was to like Edge Quake. So I kind of just picked up Mesprit as an extra like levitator. And it allows Moltres to not have to be like a flying type all the time, which I'll take as a win. Mesprit's pretty cool. It's a nice reference to the SDS mascots being the Lake Trio. I also think Mesprit's pretty good now. Gained U-turn, not U-turn. It gained Pain Split. I was just happening to look at U-turn. Um, it also has Stealth Rock and T-Wave. It also has Screens plus Healing Wish. Um, so yeah, I'll find some use for Mesprit. Originally, um, if Mesprit was like one less point for Terra, this would have been one of my Terra captains with Fez. And I can't remember at the time what I thought my flying type was going to be. I don't think it was like in the plan yet. So yeah, it was gonna be like Terra Mesprit or Fez. And obviously if I could have had the best of both worlds, I would have just done both. Because I think Terra Mesprit's pretty good with like Terra Poison and Nasty Plot, but that's not what it's gonna be doing. It's kind of just there to be like a bulky psychic backup Pokemon. It's not like the most important thing on the team, and it honestly probably won't even be showing up that much, but I do like Mesprit. It was a pretty cheap alternative to Uxie. I almost went with Uxie, but I was kind of looking at my team, and like other than Kyurem, I don't have like the strongest Pokemon in the world. Especially because this, I think before Moltres was in the plan, and then with my last two picks, Uxie was just a little too expensive. Um, so I went with Mesprit. Don't know what else I could have done. I guess I could have maybe done Bronzong. I think Bronzong was taken at the time though. But yeah. Our next pick was Girder. And Girder was a Pokemon well, it wasn't on my radar at all. But I have always kind of wanted to try Girder. It's pretty strong. It has base 105 attack with guts. Um, as an Eviolate Mon, like it's pretty bulky with the 85, 85, 50. I guess 50 special defense isn't the greatest thing in the world, but I'm pretty sure, like, I think that's tankier than Tangela, at least on the special side. Right? I think that's better than Tangela. I mean, it's not as physically bulky, I don't think, but it's strong, has three amazing abilities. Violate. I also almost decided to Terra this thing. Um, but it was just, I think, a little bit too expensive, and the last mon I have on my team was just way more worth the Terra, I think. Um, but yeah, it's a good fighting type. It also has priority with like Mach Punch. I think it also gets like quick attack. Um, and I guess it's a defogger. I don't know. It just I kind of saw this thing and it was like, well, it has a higher base attack than Obstagoon. So, and I already understand the power that is Obstagoon. Trust. And so does CLDL. um, yeah, I don't really have much more to say about Girder. I think he's a cool Pokemon. Our last mon, though, is Terradiplim. So I picked up Diplin because um, this mon was 1 point on the draft board, and Appleton was like 6, and Flapple I think was 5. So getting Diplin for 1 compared to those was just, why was this at 1 point? I'm just curious why this was at 1. Although with Terra it is I think 3, which I still think Diplin is like a 4 or 5 point mon. I think it's better than Tangela in a lot of ways. It doesn't have Regenerator like Hydrapple does. Hydrapple is also a mon that was like, I kind of wanted to use it, but I already had Meow and Kyurem, so I had no reason to pick up Hydrapple. But Diplin's fine because it's a good bulky grass alternative to Meowscarada, which helps me with like my Edgequake weakness, which Girder also kind of helps with. So my low tiers are kind of making up for like a lot of the holes that my team has. It's a pretty good Terra fighting and like Terra Steelmon. I think it gets body press. As much as I feel like Moltres is gonna come every week, just because Moltres has so much going on, I do think I need to give Diplin a chance to do something. It still gets Terra Blast, which makes up for its pretty piss poor coverage. Like it only gets Grass and Dragon moves, and I think like Infestation, so it can't touch Steels. I think it gets Body Press, or maybe I think of just like Terra fighting Terra Blast. I don't know, but it's pretty fine there. I think it has like some cool things with that. The Violate, I don't know. I know that I have 2 low tiers with a Violate, which means people are going to be spamming knockoff, but then I have Moltres, so I don't know. I guess you got to be careful. And yeah, that is the team. And now I bet you can see why I wanted to record some videos with it. I'm giving Kyurem and Rotom Wash a chance, and I do not want to have to drop them if they suck ass. I will say, spoiler alert, for week 1, they both did something. So they're in the green zone right now. Actually, all of my mons are like in the green zone as of right now. So yeah, hopefully there won't be like any trades. I did kind of think about like changing Girder to Primeape, but I think for what it was worth, I think Girder does more for the team. And it kind of scares off a lot of other things. Girder itself, I feel like every time I face Girder, I'm like, wow, I can't bring like such and such high tier Pokemon because Girder just fucking comes in and sits there. Even if you knock off, like, it's still fat enough to just kind of sit there. like you can't just get rid of a Girder. And that's something that I like a lot about it being a low tier. Same with Diplin. And Diplin also has the Sticky Hold. I guess you can't really knock it off because Sticky Hold and its other abilities aren't really worth it. You're not going to be using Gluttony unless you're running a Berry for some reason, but you're going to be running a Violate. Super Sweet Syrup. I don't even fucking know what this is for. Does Diplin even get Draco? I don't know. It might. It might get Draco. But it's not like it's going to be abusing Super Sweet. So yeah, Sticky Hold it is. And yeah, that is it. I will see you guys for week 1. I'm actually probably about to record it. And thank you for watching.